What I'm about to show you might be one of the clearest examples of how China is quietly reshaping the future of the world. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, you're going to understand why China isn't just competing in the future of technology, it's already defining it. Now, our story begins with something most people outside of China barely pay attention to: the annual Chinese New Year Gala. This televised event airs across China during the country's most important holiday. And this is not just any old TV show. It's one of the most watched broadcasts on the planet, receiving over 23 billion views across all media platforms. Chinese families gather together to watch performances of music, dance, and comedy, marking the beginning of a new lunar year. But in 2025, China did something unusual. Humanoid robots made their debut, and it was a chance for China to show off their technology to the country and the entire world. Last year, the robots marched on stage in perfect synchronized moves, waving red flags and doing a dance that was well received, and added a new element of tech into a show which has been running in China since 1983. But here is where the story gets wild. Just 12 months later, the 2026 Spring Festival Gala launched a brand new series of humanoid robots. And just look at the insane amount of progress Chinese engineers made in just 1 year. These robots moved with flawless precision, executing some of the most complicated moves ever seen from a robot. They were completing backflips, doing advanced kung fu moves, and even were able to run full speed, kick off a wall, complete a somersault, and land in perfect balance. But behind the spectacle lies a hard-nosed industrial strategy. Beijing is now betting on robotics to boost productivity to combat an aging workforce. Behind this year's show was 4 of China's leading robotics companies, including Unitree, Galbot, Notix, and Magic Lab. Last year, a total of 13,000 humanoid robots were shipped across the world, and incredibly, China was responsible for 90% of those. Morgan Stanley now expects sales of Chinese humanoid robots to more than double to 28,000 units this year. Ambitions, sectors like AI and semiconductors. Once again, we are seeing China pull away in a new industry that is going to have a profound effect on the future of our world. Just look at this chart and you can see the incredible lead Chinese companies, Unitree and Agibot, have secured. On the flip side, American robotics companies, including Tesla, have only delivered a total of 450 robots. Even Elon Musk, America's most prolific entrepreneur, was quoted as saying that China's progress is ass kicker next level. And I have to be honest, Elon's comments are spot on. I mean, right now, you can go on Amazon and order these Chinese robots and have them delivered to your house in the United States as we speak. Talk about a first mover advantage. Now, to be fair, the humanoid robots industry is still in its infancy, and the robots are far from reaching their full potential. Productivity of these robots is currently only 30 to 40% of a human worker. In addition, the battery life on these robots only lasts for 2 to 3 hours. But once again, I want to remind you of just how much progress was made in the last 12 months alone. What happens to these robots in 5 to 10 years? The potential is enormous and could completely revolutionize the future of many industries and how our daily lives function. But if I'm being honest, it's actually a little scary to see how fast things are shifting in our new world. But now the question is, can China actually do it? Can China systematically lead the robotics industry into the future? I think the answer to this question is a resounding yes. And for an interesting case study, we just need to rewind the clocks to 2009, when at the time, Chinese electric vehicles were considered a joke. Elon Musk laughed at the cars BYD was producing and famously said that Tesla never needs to worry about BYD, as their technology could never match the superior products that Tesla produces. Now, don't get me wrong, Tesla is an amazing company. In fact, I drive a Tesla here in the United States. But fast forward to today, and BYD now sells more cars worldwide than Tesla. And China has cemented itself as the world leader of the EV industry. And this is what happens when you underestimate the Chinese government and the nation's ability to determine which industries will become vital for the future economy. When China prioritizes an industry, companies have an incentive to meet those demands. Corporations are given favorable tax policies. Founders receive subsidies from the government to push innovation as fast as possible. And eventually, the industry is fully developed and becomes an integral part of the Chinese economy. But of course, this has many people in the West very concerned. The Guardian published this story a few days after the event, asking how worried should we be that China is inventing robots. It's crazy because whatever China does, it's going to be heavily scrutinized by Western media. I'll never forget this tweet from Bloomberg Asia a couple of years ago when it warned everyone that China is curing cancer faster and cheaper than anywhere else. But some are concerned they may be going too fast. I mean, give me a break. But there's a funny irony here. A lot of the people now panicking about China's robots are the same crowd that mocked China just a few years ago for not being able to build good AI foundation models. First, people claimed that China can innovate. They are a copycat nation, but now they're saying we're doomed. But honestly speaking, neither reaction is useful. I found an amazing article written by a Chinese engineer, Ray Xu, who has worked for Chinese Xiaomi and was a founding team member of Intel. He states, Spring Festival Gala robots went viral, but the takes are wrong. I'll link the full article and all my sources for today's content down in the description, but Ray Xu brings some much needed clarity to this debate. He states the reason China leads in robotics is the same reason the USA leads in AI: infrastructure. The United States has the world's largest amount of AI GPUs, so US labs can run crazier AI experiments. Meanwhile, China has the world's densest hardware supply chain, so Chinese teams can break more robots, try dumber stuff, and bounce back faster. The reason China was able to advance its robots so fast over the past 12 months doesn't come from genius alone. It comes from the ability to fail cheaply and recover fast. I've been working and traveling to China for nearly 20 years now, and most Westerners have no idea just how advanced China's domestic supply chains truly are. If you look at the Pearl River Delta around Shenzhen, plus the Yangtze River Delta around Shanghai and Hangzhou, where Unitree is actually based, these two clusters produce motors, sensors, actuators, and custom circuit boards at speeds that feel like cheating. When a Chinese robot company like Unitree wants to test a new joint design or get a part for a robot, they can literally just walk down the street and get any part they need. A few years ago, I made a YouTube video profiling an incredible textile company in China. The company is called Calito and is owned by a pair of entrepreneurs, one from China and one from Norway. This video received over 1.3 million views here on YouTube, and it was my favorite video I've ever made on my channel because I got to see up close and personal how Chinese factories work. The reason Calito and the entire textile industry in China is so successful is because of the infrastructure. Because if the Calito team needs buttons, fabric, yarn, or any material needed for textiles, all of it is within a 30-minute drive of their factory. This is China's advantage and why it is advancing so quickly among so many industries. But what about China's government's financial support? This is another common myth that we need to debunk. Critics often point to China's biggest tech company, Huawei, and accuse them of receiving too much financial help from China's government as the main metric for their success. But this thinking is lazy, because the United States is not poor. Silicon Valley has significantly more capital, much deeper pockets, and far more sophisticated investors than the Chinese venture ecosystem right now. If this were a pure spending contest, the United States would win handily. But the difference between the US and China isn't how much money you have, it's how far that money goes. Ray Xi goes on to explain. In the Bay Area, $1 million buys you a few months of runway and maybe one major hardware iteration. In Shenzhen, that same million buys you 10 iterations. Same engineers, same ideas, but wildly different output. So while Elon Musk is going all in on humanoid robots and even suggests Tesla could one day reach a $25 trillion market cap if robot sales truly scale, he also admits that it will take at least another 2 years before meaningful production begins. And in an industry that is evolving this quickly, 2 years is an eternity. Because what we're really talking about here isn't just another niche tech product. If humanoid robotics scales the way many analysts expect, this industry could rival semiconductors, becoming one of the largest and most profitable sectors in the global economy. The difference is that China already has a multi-year head start, and that gap isn't narrowing, it's accelerating. And the reason comes down to one word: infrastructure. In engineering, long-term advantage doesn't come from hype, it comes from iteration. The country that can build faster, test faster, fail faster, and rebuild faster will win. Right now, China has built the ecosystem that allows exactly that. And that's why its advantage in robotics may not just be temporary, it could become structural. And this is going to apply much more to just robotics. It's going to apply to almost every critical technology that will define the next industrial era. But probably the most important thing to understand about China's robotics industry is that it could potentially solve one of China's biggest problems it faces in the future, an aging population and one of the lowest birth rates in the world. You no doubt have heard about the massive problem China now faces with one of the world's lowest birth rates. But like this article from Scientific American states, China's population could shrink to half by 2100. Is China's future population drop a crisis or an opportunity? In reality, this is a massive opportunity for China, because while its population could indeed drop by 30 to 50% over the next 75 years, China has already taken the steps to replace the future industry workers that it will lose. And this is the part that most Western analysts are missing. China isn't building robotics because it looks impressive on television. It's building robotics because it has to. An aging workforce means fewer factory workers, fewer logistical workers, and fewer caregivers. But if automation scales, China doesn't just offset demographic decline. It becomes the first major economy to industrialize humanoid labor at scale. And if that happens, the advantage just won't be technological. It will be economical and geopolitical. Everyone, as always, I want to thank you for your incredible support and making it to this point of the video. If you haven't already, make sure that you click the links down below and subscribe to our free geopolitics newsletter so that you can stay up to date on all things China and all things geopolitics around the world. Once again, thank you all for your support, and I look forward to seeing you all in our next video soon.